Hey, what's up everyone? Snooploop7 here with another college school story to go along with this Call of Duty gameplay. So the last time I did a video like this, I talked about college professors that accused me of cheating during exams even though I actually wasn't. And that kind of got me thinking of all the bad teachers that I had during my college years, which actually luckily was not that many. But there were a few that were just flat out bad. None of them were actually the ones that accused me of cheating, even though they did accuse me of cheating, they weren't really that bad of teachers overall. So I just want to kind of talk about a few of the bad ones that I did have. To start off with, the first bad teacher I had was in the first semester of my sophomore year in my Accounting 201 class. I'm an accounting major, or I was. That's what I got my degree in, and this was my first accounting course, this Accounting 201 class, and I essentially knew nothing about anything related to accounting. I was just good at math and working with numbers, so I figured it would be a good field for me to get into. Now, for a little background on the teacher, he was 84 years old, he was from India, he was born and raised there, so he did have an accent, and he was actually, supposedly, was supposed to have been fired, but had sued the university for, I believe it was discrimination. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember exactly if it was for discriminating against him for being the only Indian professor in the department or for age. I can't really remember, but he had sued the school, and so he was able to stay and continue teaching. So obviously, we're off to a fantastic start here. Someone who should have been fired is my teacher, and he was probably the most difficult to understand person I've ever had to listen to. One, he had a pretty heavy Indian accent, which by itself really actually isn't a problem for me. I've had other teachers with heavy Indian accents or with other accents that I've been able to understand perfectly fine. But what really made him hard to understand is because he was so old, he was like losing his voice, and so his voice was really whispery and like whistly and just extremely quiet. And I almost can't even describe it. But if you watch Family Guy, his voice was like Herbert the Pervert's, except quieter and with an Indian accent. And I really had to strain just to hear anything from him. And I even sat close to the front of the class. I was always in like the second or third row, probably at most like 20 feet away. Which, if you measure that out, you'd see it's not far away at all. Any normal teacher you'd be able to hear clear as day, from that distance. But of course, that is not the only thing that made him a bad teacher. He was also one of those teachers whose tests were way too difficult for what we had learned in class. So, like, in class, it would be pretty basic, general stuff. And again, remember, this is an introductory course. And so the tests, however, were like, it was like he expected us to put it all together on our own and like formulate how certain concepts went together, even though we had never done it in class. So it was very difficult to learn things, and considering this was going to be like the basis for all my future accounting classes, I ended up pretty much having to play catch up the rest of my college career and learn things kind of as I went because it was so bad that first class. And looking back, I probably should have done what most of the other kids in my class did, because we started off with about 35 in the class, and by the time we got to the final exam, there was only like 10 or 11 that actually sat for the final exam. So I probably should have done what most of them did and dropped the class and taken it with another teacher, but hindsight is 20/20. So that was the first bad college professor I had. The second one came after I transferred schools, and it was the first semester at this school. It was a computer science class, and it was the first day of classes. I knew where the building, or I had the building and room number like written down, but I couldn't find the building. Luckily, I had downloaded a map of the campus onto my phone. Unluckily, my phone was spazzing out, and for whatever reason, I could not open up the map, so I couldn't find the building. I had to go find like one of those big maps that are next to like the sidewalks as you're walking around. You can find them. So I had to go find one of those, and then use that to find the building, then walk to the building. So I ended up being about 20 minutes late, and so that's obviously 100% my fault. But I walk into the class, and usually teachers on the first day, they hand out a syllabus or course outline. But when I walked in, I didn't see a stack of them like in front of her desk, and as I was going to find a seat, I didn't see any like students with a syllabus on their desk either. But she was going over the outline on a projector, so I thought maybe she doesn't hand them out, she just goes over it the first day and that's it. So it seemed like a regular first class, and now the next class rolls around the next week, and I show up to the classroom on time, except this time the class is empty and dark and it's locked, and I wait for a while to see if anyone shows up. No one shows up, so I think maybe it got canceled and I never got an email or something for it, so I leave and don't think too much of it. The next class, same thing. So now I'm thinking maybe there's a room change or something and I didn't get an email for that. So I email the teacher and I'm just like, I've gone to the classroom the last couple days, there's been no one there, was there a classroom change, what's going on? And she responds back saying that I haven't shown up to any classes yet, which is false. Like I said, I'd shown up to the first day even though I was late, and I had actually gone up to her after the class and told her my name so she could mark me as being there. And she also told me to refer to the syllabus, which was on a website that she had set up for the class. She gave me the link to the website, and that the lab sessions were in the PS classroom. So I'm thinking, alright, maybe she mentioned the lab sessions or something before I had arrived, unlucky, feels bad, man. So I decided to check the syllabus for that information, which, of course, doesn't mention lab sessions at all, or the PS classroom. So the syllabus that she sent me to is actually completely useless for the information that I need, and she essentially didn't give me any information that was useful because, being a new student, the PS classroom means nothing to me. She didn't give me a building or anything like that. Not only that, but I actually asked my sister, who had gone to the school for 2 years, where the PS classroom is, and she had no idea. So how I was supposed to know where it is, I'm not sure. So I respond back to the professor, and I say, hey, I'm a transfer student, so I'm not sure where that classroom is, can you tell me what building? And of course, being the great teacher that she is, I never even got a response back from her. And I actually ended up getting lucky. The next class, I went to the regular classroom, no one there again, so I'm thinking, what the hell? So I was going back to just leave, and as I'm leaving, I see a kid that I recognize from the very first day of classes, and so I followed him into another building, and he just so happened to be going to where the lab classroom obviously was. So I had to randomly, luckily, see a kid that I recognized from the first class and follow him to where these lab sessions were. All because the teacher of the class didn't want to let me know where the class was. And like the previous teacher, she was just a bad teacher in general. Like, she had a good knowledge of the subject herself, but her ability to pass that on to the students and actually teach the information was just terrible. And again, this is another introductory level course, and yet for certain things, for example, she would write lines of code for a program that we had to run or whatever, except she wouldn't write it out in full, and she would expect us, the new students who had never done anything like this before, to know what Java classes and stuff to use, even though we hadn't been taught prior. We were supposed to just figure it out on our own, essentially, and it was, I don't know, it was just ridiculous. But I do want to move on to the final bad professor I had in college. It was actually in my final semester, just this last semester. It was a strategic management class. It met once a week, so there's 15 or 16 classes, because that's how many weeks there are in a semester, approximately. I can't even remember the exact amount. So there's obviously a lot of stuff that you have to go over in each class, because they're 2.5-hour classes. Unfortunately, we missed about 6 classes, I think. It might have been 6 or 7 classes for various reasons. A couple snow days, the professor actually had surgery and missed 2 weeks because of it. And so when you only have 9 or 10 classes out of the 16 that you're supposed to, you miss a crap ton of time that really you need to use for learning the information. And so basically what the class was about was learning the different strategic matrices and models, and how to create and form them and use them in creating a strategic plan for a company. So that's going to be some pretty specific information, as you can imagine, which is where the problems arise, because we had so few classes that we never actually got taught the specifics. We never got into them in class. The teacher really only gave an overview of all the different things we had to learn, and there was there was literally only one matrix where we really went over the specifics and actually did a model in class, and that was probably the only one that I knew really well. So he only gave an overview of everything, and he expected us, he actually told us that we were supposed to learn everything else by reading the book. He flat out wanted us to read every single thing in the book, which, to a certain degree I get it. You have to do some learning on your own and read the book and stuff, but there's no real point of him being paid to teach if really I'm going to learn everything just from reading the book. Because my thinking of it is it's supposed to be the teacher teaching and the book kind of supplementing that teaching and helping with the learning. So when that's not the case, it's like, what am I paying these thousands of dollars for? Because it would be a lot cheaper just to get the book and read it on my own and learn the same information. And then on top of that, his exams were terrible. For example, his first exam, it was for the first 7 chapters of the book, and the exam had 4 questions on it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure how 4 questions can test your knowledge on 7 chapters, because these were very specific questions. So if you want to know how well I know the 7 chapters, asking 4 questions isn't going to do it. And I'm not the only one in the class that thought he was a bad teacher. Everyone in the class thought he was a bad teacher. And that's saying something when it's all seniors who have all had many college professors over their college lives to be saying that you're a terrible teacher. You're probably a pretty terrible teacher. When we're doing the surveys for the teacher at the end of the year, literally everyone, I'm not even joking, was like, yeah, we're all giving him a bad grade, right? And everyone was like, yep, he was terrible. So that kind of says something. It wasn't just me thinking he was bad. But that's going to about wrap up this video. Hopefully, if you guys are going to be in college soon, hopefully you don't have very many bad teachers. Let me know in the comments below if you've already had some terrible teacher experiences. I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary and the gameplay. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.